accessing help, but even the pain they go through.
Awesome.
And the 2023 theme, just preparing for the unexpected and supporting the vulnerable, that's the theme for this year.
Yes, preparing for the unexpected.
Preparing for the unexpected.
And supporting
the vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That is the theme for this year.
Yes.
And if you look at that theme keenly, we've just come from COVID-19, a pandemic, which is currently, again, is a problem now as we speak. And these are people that are quite vulnerable. And when you talk of vulnerable means they're susceptible to injury or a disease. Actually, that's the definition of someone being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And therefore, some of these people have to sit inside the house, do nothing. And when we celebrate these days, basically we are saying, can we remember those who are currently battling with this disease?
Yes.
Can we remember those who can't even afford the simplest medication as far as this disease is concerned? Can we also remember those who are taking care of those who are suffering from the disease?
Awesome.
Okay? Mm-hmm. And most importantly, can we remember those who have gone ahead and given their own kidneys to their loved ones? You know, people have sacrificed in terms of giving their own kidney to the others. Some people have gone as far as resigning from their jobs to take care of their loved ones. Some people have lost their jobs because the employer cannot take care of such people. Some people, as we speak today, are struggling to just even get where they can be tested. You know, that is the blood and the urine. And today is a very important day because, for example, in Kenyatta National Hospital, there'll be somewhere that people can go and be tested. Mm-hmm. Because kidney disease, rarely do they show any signs and symptoms.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Let's again dig into these numbers. In 2020, according to WHO, 4,464 Kenyans lost their lives because of kidney disease. In fact, Jeremy, when we look at these numbers, again, when you look at the total numbers of deaths that we got from accidents, road accidents last year, this stands to be more.
Correct. And let me tell you, it is more. Kidney disease is so complicated. And let's not also forget that majority of Kenyans are suffering from some of the diseases that are risk factors to kidney diseases. Yes. Mm-hmm. One of them is diabetes. Another is high blood pressure. We have cancers and others. And this puts them at risk of getting kidney diseases. And leave alone that, let me give you the numbers. In 2017, it was said that 4 million Kenyans were suffering from kidney disease. Out of that 4 million Kenyans, only 10,000 of them had chronic disease. That is end of it, where now they need what we call dialysis and even transplant.
Yes.
Out of these 10,000, only 10% could even afford the services or could access services. We are talking of 72 facilities across the country, both private and public. That's how serious it is. With that 4,000, you know, when you talk of 4,000, more than 4,000 lives, it's more than 40 buses crashing.
And once, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Let's assume that a bus has got about 80, for example.
Yeah.
That's more than 50 buses crashing.
Crashing.
Yeah. That's more than 4,000
in a year. Even if you distribute it every other month.
Correct. 50. That's how serious it is.
That's putting a face behind those numbers, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. 50 buses are crashing to make that 4,000 people. These are not just statistics. These are people who have died on something that we could have prevented and protected.
But just before I see exactly where you are with Amref University on really being part and parcel of this conversation, there's a number again. There's something that WHO highlighted in this number. And they said this: if you look at most developed countries, that's where majority of people who suffer kidney diseases are. But then they said most developing nations now are also accelerating the number, accelerating in number in terms of the people who are also at risk of suffering from kidney disease. Could you put that into perspective? Why is it that in affluent economies, that's where you get majority of these numbers? And why is it then that Kenya, as a developing nation, we are also at risk of increasing this number, the 4,000 that we got in 2020?
Thank you. Let's put that in perspective.
Yeah.
Number one, what are some of the risk factors to kidney diseases? And we'll understand why the developed and the developing nations are struggling with kidney diseases.
Yes.
Number one is high blood pressure. It's across the nations. Across the nations. And it's a silent killer. High blood pressure. And you won't know. What we know is that high blood pressure is one of the most risk factors to kidney diseases. Number two is diabetes, both type 1 and type 2. It's a big problem in all the nations.
Yes.
Number three is cardiovascular diseases. It's a big problem. Number four is overweight. People are struggling with weight across the nations. And most importantly, exercise. Most of us are so busy. Both nations, people are busy. They rarely exercise. And these are the risk factors to kidney disease. But let's not also forget COVID-19. COVID-19 made it even worse in terms of all the nations, both developing and the developed. But the only difference is that in developing nations, Kenya being one of them, access to health is a big problem. And let's not forget, our constitution is so specific in chapter 43 and says everyone has got a right to good health. And the same is also captured in Sustainable Development Goals. But let me also say, in 2015, kidney is one of the NCDs, that is non-communicable diseases. At least in Sustainable Development Goals of 2015-2030, it has been recognized. And we are saying that by 2030, we need to reduce the number of NCD deaths by a third. Will we do that? We don't know. Why? Look at the number of people that are smoking. Smoking is one of the risk factors to kidney diseases. Okay? And of course, family history. At one time, if any of your members of close families had kidney disease, what we are saying is that you are at risk of getting kidney diseases. Okay? Therefore, it basically means that it's a multifaceted of a lot of things that then causes what we are calling this kidney disease. But kidney disease as a disease is so easy to deal with when known early. One thing about kidney disease, as I said earlier, is that you can't know the symptoms. By the time the symptoms come, you're already in step 3, step 4, or stage 5 of it.
Isn't it, by the time you're feeling the symptoms, you're already deep within it.
You're already deep with it. That's the problem.
So the only thing that you got to control, and that's why it's a bit tricky, as you're saying, is the risk factors, isn't it?
And going for tests. Okay? It's important that you always go for tests, and more so if you know that you're at risk. For example, if you've got cancer, let's say prostate cancer, for example, or you've got the kidney stones, for example, or you've got high blood pressure, you've got diabetes, it's important that then, meaning you're at risk of getting a kidney disease. Therefore, it's important that you always go for tests, and they do a special test. For example, in creatine, they look at blood, creatine in the blood, and protein in the urine, as a way of knowing whether you are suffering from kidney disease.
Yes.
And kidneys are the kidney is a very small organ. It's like is a mouse. If you know how a mouse, the shape of a mouse, that's it. Is that small, but very important. It removes the toxins in our body. It removes the excess fluid in our body. And basically, if your kidney is not functioning well, meaning you've got a lot of fluids within your body, among them lungs, what will happen is then you'll have a lot of swelling, for example, in your ankles. And those are some of the telltale signs that something is going wrong.
Yes.
Urinating frequently or not frequently. It's a big issue. Vomiting, nausea. And if you look at some of these symptoms, they are more or less the same as other diseases. And therefore, people, in most cases, by the time diagnosis takes place, and the way we are, where we come from, the level 1, level 2, level 3, there are only 72 facilities that you can get dialysis and better treatment as far as kidney is concerned across the country, both public and private. Yes.
And that's
you're talking of 4 million people.
Against 72.
Look at that. 72 facilities, both private and public. But do not forget that private is about how much you have in your pocket.
That's it, by the way. It's not affordable to every other person.
No, it's not. Even public itself. Even public, it's not.
Dialysis is essentially not heavily covered under NHIF.
No, it is.
Yes.
The only problem with kidney and dialysis is, in most cases, actually people go for dialysis because that is the only thing that is covered by NHIF. Transplant is not covered by NHIF. And whenever you've gone for transplant, basically means that you live in medication forever. And because NHIF does not cover, and I want the viewers to understand this, NHIF does not cover transplant and treatment after transplant or taking care of yourself after transplant.
After transplant. Yeah.
So most people don't go for this transplant. Most people then go for dialysis because that is now what is being covered by NHIF.
Yeah.
But even just having a dialysis machine, most public hospitals cannot afford because of the consumables that we need as far as dialysis is concerned. The consumables are very quite expensive. You must have a water plant in some of these institutions, okay? And therefore, even public hospitals, in most cases, like for example in Kisumu, there's only one public hospital in the name of Jaramogi Odinga Referral Hospital.
So that means that if you are a patient in Kisumu and you want to get treated or go for dialysis
in a public hospital, it's only Jaramogi. It's only Jaramogi.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Yes.
For a disease that beats accidents in this country annually.
Correct.
Let's go back to what WHO is saying, that those who are at high risk of fatalities are, number one, and let's look at what they're saying, that the prevalence of chronic disease, that is in Africa entirely, before we look at Kenya, it is 14%. Now listen, in Kenya, it is estimated at 4%. Now, according to a population-based study of this one in East Africa, the prevalence in Western Kenya alone, 4%.
Look at the population in Western Kenya.
As a scholar, when we are talking about the entire prevalence being 14%, and then one region contributes the entire percentage, that is the average in the country, that's a 4%, what does that speak to? Is Western Kenya essentially a chronic disease, a chronic kidney disease region in this country?
Let me break that number
to
our viewers. 40% means
out
of 100 people, 14 have got kidney disease. That's basically what it means. If you take 100 people in a room, 14 of them are with the disease.
Whoa.
When you talk of 4% in a region, look at the population in Western Kenya. Then do that by 4%. If there are, let's say, 2 million people, for example, out of 4%, 2 million, we're talking about 80,000 people. Just like that. We won't say that Western Kenya is manifested, for example, by chronic disease. We won't say that. But we would say there must be something that the Western Kenya counties have done in terms of, for example, a number of diagnoses that is taking place. And let me say also that a lot of kidney diseases currently are being known because people now are going for tests, number one. Number two is that other diseases, when they manifest, doctors know that, hey, let's test 1, 2, 3 about you. And maybe at that time, it was a targeted and a number of tests were done as far as kidney is concerned, and that's where they came up with that number. But look at Nairobi. We don't know about Nairobi. Just like they say high blood pressure, the prevalence is about 4% in Kenya. 4% is only those that have been tested. that 14% I can tell you that we are told that World Health Organization is talking about, that number could be more. Most people are walking in town here. Most people are walking in our streets with this disease unknowingly. They will only know when the signs are coming out. But a number of us are walking with this disease unknowingly.
Let's go back a bit to AMREF then. Would you talk to me about how you find yourself in this conversation of kidney disease awareness, and especially these days speaks to exactly what you're doing? Could you give perspective into how AMREF finds itself in this conversation?
AMREF International University is a Pan-African university.
Yes.
That we are geared towards purely health training. And apart from just the clinical part that we train in our School of School of Health Sciences, we also train community health workers in the School of Public Health.
Yes.
And we also train health systems managers in the School of Public Health. The community health workers are so key to be included in the fight against kidney disease, simply because diseases begin at the community. It begins at the household. If we could empower community health workers to talk to our people about the signs and symptoms of kidney diseases, we won't have these numbers. And that's why AMREF International University is training a lot of community health workers. Because community health workers are key in terms of even navigating some of these patients into the health system. Imagine a kidney patient comes to the hospital. She doesn't know where she can take or he can take her blood pressure measurements. He doesn't know where a nephrologist is. He doesn't know even where to get a nurse. Who is going to help this person? A community health worker. And therefore, as AMREF International University, we get into this conversation. Number one, training nurses to take care of patients. Number two, training community health workers to navigate, to teach, to counsel, to look at them, to talk to the caregivers, to talk to these patients, to empower them in terms of knowing what are the telltale signs of kidney disease.
Yes.
And community health workers are so key. If you remember the COVID-19, community health workers are known to have helped a lot in terms of fighting COVID-19. Why can't we also do the same in the NCDs, including kidney disease? And community health workers are key, because if they're empowered and they know someone has got a high blood pressure, immediately then they'll tell the person, you are at risk of other diseases, including kidney disease. You are at risk of cardiovascular disease. You are at risk, if you're diabetic, you are at risk of kidney disease. And therefore, you ought to be going for testing, so that we don't know when the signs are out. And that's why AMREF is coming in so strongly, both the NGO and the university.
Yes.
Number one, the NGO is working so hard also to introduction of NCDs, non-communicable diseases, in Nyeri and other counties. And kidney is part of it. The International University is coming in, training and empowering community health workers and clinicians in terms of fighting this disease. And as AMREF, we are saying, we also advocate and we tell the government that a disease that is killing more than 4,000, that is almost 50 buses crashing, ought to be taken seriously.
Seriously, indeed.
And this is the time to look at our policies. For example,
want you to hold on that particular conversation for policies, because that's what we're coming in the next part, because there seems to be then a disconnect in terms of recognizing that this is a huge killer in the country and what is exactly happening on the ground. That disconnect in policy is what I want us to talk about in the next part of our conversation. By the way, those questions that you've been asking, we're going to get into that. The symptoms, the telltale signs that indeed you are a patient of kidney disease. That is what we're going to look at in the next part of our conversation right here on The Morning Drift. Remember, today, the 9th of March, 2023, is the day that we recognize kidney. And our topic today was how to protect your kidney. Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms, the hashtag is The Morning Drift. I am at Kiaga.
and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Kwa shule ilikuwa ni noma. Yeah, getting something to eat bado, especially in my last 2 years ilikuwa ngumu sana. And Nation Media Group, the Energy Radio, nimeenda Ghetto Radio. Yeah, hizo zote. The response was some waliniambia nitume emails. I'd like to see many things change, you know, like the fact that unaweza enda shop uchukue ile kitu yenye unadai, si lazima uangalie kwanza pesa zenye uko nazo kwa mfuko, unaona. Education actually aishi pale after umemaliza, after you get your degree and stuff, it goes on and on.
We know the drought has affected over 24 counties and Lookuptv is one of them. So we are hoping to give back, give them food that can sustain them as we try and see how we can mitigate the drought.
Tunashukuru Loto kwa sababu si chakula peke yake wametuletea. Pia wamekumbuka ile kitu inafanya tupate hili janga la mvua kukosa, ni pia tumekosa miti. Kwa hivyo wanaachia watu wetu miti, watu wetu wakipanda miti tutaweza kuvuruta mvua na watu wetu wataweza kupata mvua, wapande chakula na mwishowe tupate kulisha familia zetu.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Husemwa wasanii ni kioo cha jamii. Taaluma yake ya ubunifu wa uchoraji akitumia shanga kuunda picha tajika na za kukodolewa macho kodo. Usanii wa sanaa na msanii Alex Kamanjiri. Kwa uhondo kamili usikose siku ya Jumapili saa 1 kamili na Mifiona Kenga kwenye runinga ya Lookup.
We are still with Jeremy Momoge, who is the head of Department Community Health, Amref International University. Today we are recognizing the need for you to understand kidney disease. Jeremy, let's continue with that conversation, even before we jump into policy, which is where we left it. Now, the questions that came up out of this conversation, people were sort of worried. And I know you've mentioned that once you get into the symptoms, then you do know that you're deep within it.
Correct.
But then what are the symptoms that I'm going to look out for me to say, well, let me go seek medical help, if indeed I'm already there?
Number 1 is nausea. Mm-hmm. Okay? And of course, vomiting.
Yeah.
It's one of the signs. And again, some of these signs are known to be, others,
yes.
Let's not forget that there are a number of steps or stages of kidney, okay? So stage 1, stage 2, you'll never know anything that you've got anything, never, you know.
In stage 1 and 2,
you'll never know that you've got anything.
You're essentially living healthy.
You're very good. You doing your own things and everything is okay. But by the time now you see your ankles or your feet, there is a lot of swelling in your feet, headache that doesn't stop, frequent urination, which is again, if you talk to experts, for example, on TB and others, so or maybe when coming to urination, you don't urinate much, none. At times you might be having high blood pressure without knowing much.
Yes.
Those are some of the telltale signs of kidney disease. But by the time now they're coming, you ought to be very careful which stage you are. You might be in a very, very high stage.
Yes. Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm looking out for. So somebody asked, is it just going to be about my urine passage that I should be concerned with, especially when we're talking about kidney disease?
Not really. There are a number of things. So what happens is that if you go to a hospital to be checked, they'll do very special tests. They'll take your blood and they'll take your urine. So in the urine, they'll check on the protein, if there are proteins in your urine. And in your blood, they'll check on the creatine, what we call the creatine. Reason being, kidney normally is like a flash in our body. And therefore, what happens is that if the flash can't work, one, there'll be a lot of fluids, in your body, including your kidney, including your kidney linings. Number two, even because kidney also help us in coming up with bone, by the way, bone formation. And something that I didn't mention, there's something we call osteoarthritis. And I'm sure a number of us know, you've heard of arthritis.
Arthritis,
Okay? And arthritis comes with age. So age is also one of the risk factors to kidney. And it's also a factor to arthritis. Now, the connection between arthritis and kidney is that most of these people that are suffering from arthritis need a lot of non-steroids drugs. So whenever you take a lot of non-steroid drugs, what is happening is that you are increasing the chances of getting kidney disease. So you can't run away from it when you have got arthritis. But the bad or the worst is that when you take them, then high chances again you are going to get arthritis and kidney. And therefore, age is a huge factor. The medication that we take, that's why we are told, don't just take medicine. Always only take medicine prescribed by the doctor. Another thing is that at times you work for long and you feel like going to urinate, for example. But then you sit for long and say, no, I'll go later. You are making yourself to be at risk of getting kidney disease. Why? Because you are containing this urine. The kidney has done its work by filtering, the fluids, and now you are supposed to go and remove it from your body, but you are staying with it. You are overworking your kidney. Therefore, now whatever is happening now, the process to some extent is stalling, and therefore you are making yourself at risk of again getting. So anytime you feel like urinating, go and urinate.
Yes.
Basically, that is it. And let's learn to take more and more water. It's like a filter. If there's nothing to filter, there's nothing to filter, what will happen is things are going to be bad. So always take a lot of water, and that is one of way to clean your system, and the kidney is there to clean your system, to remove the toxins from your body.
Yes.
But then, what if you've got kidney? You've already been, you are known now you have kidney, what do? Number one is that you must avoid use of salt. Completely. Number two, potassium. And we get a lot of potassium from our vegetables. And so the best thing to the kidney patients who are watching is that you need to boil that vegetable before you take it. So because boiling then do away with potassium. Because what happens is that potassium are some of the, some of the elements that then has to be removed from your body. And therefore, because you already have kidney disease,
yes,
you're overworking your kidney, which is so vulnerable to any infection.
Yeah.
Number 3, if you've got kidney disease, then you must stop smoking if you're a smoker. Just stop smoking. It's as simple as that. Another thing is that always check your blood pressure, and look at the maximum and the minimum that you are given by your doctor. It's a very, very important to be checking your high blood pressure. I don't know which number now I am.
Yeah, number 4. Mm-hmm.
Overweight. Look at your weight. Check your weight.
Yeah.
If you are overweight, basically you are increasing the chances of the kidney disease progressing to other stages, which then, the only thing then can be done is either transplant or dialysis. So these are some of the issues that the kidney patients need to know,
yes,
and even the public that are yet to know. Go
need to
for
know these
test.
things, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, go for test, check yourself, let be checked. And more so, if you're at risk. And remember, one of the risks, number 1 is age, and number 2, if you've got a family history of kidney disease in your family,
yes,
meaning basically you are vulnerable to also getting the same.
That's it. All right. We'll be joined by senior nephrologist shortly on this conversation. We can go deep, quickly touch on the types that you need to go to on the stages, just for them to understand. Let's talk about policy, Jerem. If we're losing many to the level that we are losing them in this country annually, it means that there could be a disconnect then. I was just speaking to you just before we went on air. It looks as if the country is celebrating winning the fight against malaria. It looks as if the country is celebrating winning the fight against infant mortality in this country. Some of those health challenges that have dogged this country way back in history, it looks as if we're making good progress in some of them. But then you look back and say, wait, how can we be winning in one direction and completely seem to be losing in the other as well? You would think that would approach healthcare from a single direction, that we're winning in all fronts. Could you talk to me about this? Are we losing our fight against kidney disease in this country? And if so, where are we getting it wrong in terms of policy?
Policy guides. Policy remains the key to dealing with some of these diseases. A kidney disease being part of the non-communicable disease that we know, for example. We know the government have tried to come up with and we appreciate some of these policies in terms of dealing with kidney disease and other NCDs. But there is something that we are not getting right. The amount of funding that we put on NCDs. We need to put money on NCDs. We need to put money on kidney. We need to put money on consumer. We need to put money on funding issues with dialysis, issues with transplanting, and more so promotion of health. We need to put money to reduce the number of cases that gets into hospital. Let's first agree. The number of health workers that can deal with kidney diseases, as we speak, are not many in the country. They're very few. So that's one thing that we ought to deal with. Where is the health team that can deal with some of these issues? And that's a policy work. That's a policy issue. Number 2, funding. And the National Assembly and other organs of the government need to check on how much money are we putting to deal with non-communicable diseases. That's number 2. Number 3, I talked of the community health workers, okay? There's what we call the task shifting policy that we came up with in terms of dealing with NCDs, because let's first agree that the health facilities that can deal with this disease are few. That's number 1. Number 2, let's also agree that the health workers that can deal with this are few. And then that should then come into our mind and say, can we then stop or preventing this disease at the household level by empowering the community health workers, or what we call the community health volunteers and community health assistants, to make people aware about kidney and other NCDs, then we could reduce the number that clog our health system and our few health workers going forward. Therefore, task shifting policy ought to be implemented to the latter.
Pretty much.
Number two, we need to appreciate that money has to go into it. And we appreciate the United Nations, this time, at least for the first time, NCDs was recognized.
Yes.
But we need to go a step further and just stop recognizing, but implementing.
That. Pretty much, Jareem. At this point, let me welcome to the conversation Ali Kaputhia, who's a senior nephrologist, nurse, and peer mentor. Ali, how are you doing, sir?
Good.
I'm so sorry you ran into traffic this morning. Let's grab the final few minutes of this conversation. I'm just going to ambush you directly so that our audience gets to understand. Are there levels in kidney disease, and are there types of kidney disease? Quickly attack that before we put more questions to you.
Yes, there are levels and there are types of kidney disease.
Yes.
First of all is that you can have, let me start with the types. That you can have acute kidney disease and chronic kidney disease.
Yes.
Acute kidney disease happens, you lose your kidney function within minutes, hours, or even a couple of days, and to a level that you may need a kidney replacement therapy, a treatment that replaces the function of your kidney. That's acute.
That's acute.
That happens so sudden, and usually the patient becomes so sick, and most of these patients are lost before even you realize what happened.
Hold on. If you're talking about minutes, hours, then what could be leading to this acute kidney disease?
This kidney disease is caused by exactly acute reasons.
Yes.
That
I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
Acute. Yes.
Yeah. That acute really means you've been fine.
Awesome.
Then something happens to your system, that your kidney, you lose your kidney function. For instance, the kidney receives a lot of blood every other time your heart beats.
Yeah.
25% of that cardiac output, I'm talking of blood, goes to the kidney. Think of a kidney, a small tissue, and then receives 25% of that output. That's a lot of blood.
That's a lot of blood.
Yeah, as compared to the rest of the system.
Yeah.
So when anything that will cause this blood not to reach the kidney that much will really cause an acute kidney disease. For instance, if you bled, let's say, God forbid, somebody gets out there and bleeds, maybe a mother who is in labor and bleeds even before going to labor, bleeds so much, say that the kidney it doesn't receive enough blood. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is that God is so beautiful, it makes sure that you get preserved. So when you lose your kidney, you lose your blood, what happens is that naturally you fall down. That's a nature's way of saving you.
Yeah.
Yes, you fall down so that the little blood you have drains to the brain and the heart and the lungs. These are vital organs that will keep you alive, and everything else gets rationed. So your kidney gets blood rationing, and when it gets blood rationing for a long period of time, not so long, between a few hours, it starts to die. So the tissue starts to die. And of course, once it lacks oxygen, it lacks food, nutrition, and all this, and it starts dying. That's one reason. The other reason could be even diarrhea, uncontrolled diarrhea. You get bowel movements so much, especially you realize when somebody has an acute diarrhea, like in case of cholera, if they don't get replaced, that fluid don't get replaced, they go to kidney failure. You may not know what killed them. Maybe even there's a kidney failure. So it's so much to that. So those are some of the things. And of course, infections, like you get an acute malaria. You think of treating malaria, but usually it goes to the kidney also. So there's so much that can cause acute kidney.
Yes.
So if we went to the chronic now. Chronic happens slowly. That's a bad one. most of them live long because you get to realize, and these people don't look sick at all at first. And this has 5 stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and eventually stage 5. The causes of this usually are chronic conditions. Chronic conditions like uncontrolled diabetes,
Yes.
Uncontrolled blood pressure, high blood pressure. Of course, you need your pressure, so it has to be high for it to be a problem.
Yeah.
So, uncontrolled high blood pressure.
Yes.
If you do not control this, and the other thing is a condition called glomerulonephritis. That's inflammation of the nephrons. Nephrons are the functional units of the kidney. So when you talk of kidney, really, and that's important, it is that we are not talking of the tissue itself. We are talking about the functional units of the kidney.
Of the kidney.
And there are quite a number of them. One kidney would have like 1.2 million. That's a big number, right?
That's a huge number.
That's a huge number. So
Yeah.
if you do not control your diabetes, what diabetes does is that when you do not control it, it affects your blood vessels. It narrows them. So it's like a river that is sluggish, and therefore there's a buildup of plaque, and it reduces the blood vessels, thins up until you literally have no flow to the tissues. So this time the blood vessels of the kidney gets affected equally, because anything that affects blood vessels, it doesn't spare. It affects every other blood vessel in the body. And as they thinning means it goes now to the organs themselves, they even block in this situation. So, and therefore this organ gets denied blood, gets denied nutrients and all this, and they die. And therefore you lose that kidney functions eventually, and over time you get to lose your kidney completely. But the beauty is you can salvage it if you are a person who is health conscious. Like if you would go to the hospitals every often, not because you're sick, but because you're healthy to take yourself. Or else somebody will take you, right?
So just go, not because you're sick, because you want to take yourself to the hospital.
Yes,
so that
you
can
want to
learn
be
about
healthy,
yourself.
and you want to be healthy. You know?
And part of being healthy is going to hospital.
Yeah. Anytime you assume that.
It's funny, isn't it? We're talking
it.
about it with Jarim. The part of being healthy is going to hospital.
Sure.
Anyway, we're coming back to you shortly, though, on this. But Jarim, let's give him this time, so that I'm getting informed that we only have 5 minutes for this. Now, 2 questions, and I want you to answer them precisely and quickly as you can. What are kidney stones? 1, and what is kidney dialysis? Quickly hear that.
Okay, kidney stones. Kidney stones, it's one of the conditions that causes chronic kidney disease.
Okay.
And what happens is that the body becomes, it's a bit alkaline, and therefore your body starts forming stones. You know, stones, not stones really, these are mineral stones, okay? Because if you can mix a bit of salt, you realize salt can just harden and become like stone.
Yeah.
So, and it affects and it blocks the outlets, okay? It can affect, you can get it deposited in the urinary bladder, and goes up and it blocks, or it goes up to the ureters, or just immediately after the kidney, and it blocks somewhere called renal pelvis.
Yes.
And it blocks the flow of urine. And what happens is that then urine, instead of flowing, flows back, upstream, goes to where it came from.
Yeah.
And the kidney tissue gets soaked in urine.
I see that.
It's something called hydronephrosis.
Yeah.
And this hydronephrosis is toxic to the kidney. You know, this is toxic. We need to get it out, but it doesn't get out.
Yes.
So it gets retained. So over time, if you do not get to control it and treat it, you lose your kidney. Okay? It's called post-renal cause of kidney failure.
Yes.
Post-renal, that's after the kidney.
As
Yeah, because some things can happen before the kidney, like when you lose a lot of blood or you lose fluid, it becomes before the kidney. And something else happens within the kidney. It's called intrarenal, which is within the kidney, causes of kidney disease.
Yes.
So, so you need to treat it. And you cannot reach here without. By the time it kills your kidneys, you're really ignorant about your health, and you really don't care, because these are things that announce themselves. You feel pain in the loins because of. Some people even are lucky to drop a piece of stone
during the process of urinating.
Yes, so you can hear something just drop in the ball. Okay,
scary, I'm telling you.
So, but then you can really treat it.
Yes,
and you can prevent it. There are a number of medications. You can see a nutritionist. These are things that you can, with nutrition, you can control it. You make you make the formation of the stones unfavorable. Okay, so you stop it.
Yeah.
Let's go to dialysis.
Dialysis, quickly that.
Dialysis is a form of kidney replacement therapy, because I'm calling kidney replacement therapy, and that's a nice name, because what really happens is you are replacing the kidney function. When you lose your kidneys, you do not make urine. You could be making urine, but you do not remove toxins from your system.
Yes.
So, and you are not even doing something called buffer. Buffering is when you have an HB. You remember the pH thing?
Yeah, the pH levels back in high school.
Back in high school.
Yeah.
So your body needs to have a certain pH level.
Yeah.
When it's high, then you are alkaline. Your system is alkaline and doesn't support life.
Yes.
When it's low, it's acidic and doesn't support life.
Exactly.
So all this becomes a complication. It's a cascade of things.
Yeah.
So then what happens now is that you need something to replace that function of that kidney.
That's it.
Important, before even I mention it, is that when you talk of kidney failure, we are saying all your kidneys. That's if you're lucky to have both of them, because you can have one, okay? You can have lone kidney born with it. So when I'm talking about kidney failure, it's about the kidney function in you. Gone. So don't ask me, Nizote Billy, don't. So now, you have no kidney function. Yeah. So the kidneys are there, the tissues are there, but they don't function. So what happens now is that in normal physiology, what happens is blood goes through the kidney.
Yes.
For that, that process to be done. But now,
yes. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
We have run out of time.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll call you back. But here's the thing. 15 seconds each. 15 seconds. And I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. Today, 15 seconds, exactly. What can I do to contribute today, to this day? Today.
Go to Kenyatta National Hospital.
Yes.
Go check your blood.
Yes.
Check your urine. Check your high blood pressure. Check your glucose level to contribute to the reduction of kidney disease in the country.
Done. Got a direct question to you. You're very few in this country. Why? That's a direct question to you. 15 seconds, we step out.
We are few, but we are growing. So we continue with, we train more people. More importantly, do more public awareness.
Yes.
Use your TV, my friend, okay? So use the media. Let's ask people not to take over-the-counter medications. Anytime, let them go to the hospital as they are healthy.
No, people don't understand how senior this guy is, Kapusi. You know, you could be sitting right here, but if you know exactly the department that he is in this country, you're going to look for them. One of those days when you'll be looking for him, you might miss them. Guess what? But we got him. I'll wait for those few minutes. I promise we are going to look for him again, so we can come back now and table this conversation. You did hear is quite eloquent in these issues. I'd like to have him and Jareem together. Now we can look at then how to protect your kidney. Quite important, the disease that kills 4,000 plus annually. According to Jareem, 50 buses crashing in a year. That's something that we need to talk about. Guess what? We take a tiny break, and bitterly so. Once we come back, Ian Ketani and I will be looking at exactly what's trending and our newsroom diary today. Good morning.